Memorial Day is a time when Americans remember their war dead. But what about those who fought and survived? Those veterans who now suffer from disabilities, PTSD, or die from suicide. Many veterans and their families are still facing hardship and suffering on this Memorial Day weekend and every day. Here's a look back at a conversation with Michael Reagan, the son of America's 40th president. Mr. Reagan is president of the Reagan Foundation, a best-selling author and syndicated columnist. Michael, always good to talk with you. I want to discuss the Legacy Foundation and what you're doing to honor your dad and veterans. But first, your father. He held a special place in his heart for American war heroes and servicemen and women. What would he think about the way our veterans are being treated today? Or should I say mistreated?
I think he'd be very upset. He was very upset back in the 1970s, the way they were being treated, especially when they came home from Vietnam. And he did something about that. And he would make sure that our veterans were treated with great respect. Those who are coming home, those who are here, that need really all the help they can get, especially when you have so many committing suicide on a regular basis, up 46% in this last year. He would try to get to the bottom of it and say, what can we do to help these vets? And I think people really need to understand. I think what he would tell people is you need to remember vets, not 3 days a year. You need to remember vets 365 days a year. And unfortunately, we only do it 3 days instead of 365 days. But we need to think about that all the time, not just part of the time.
I know some friends of Gold Star families have expressed concern that illegal immigrant families separated from their children at the U.S. southern border are being awarded nearly $1 million, while family members of U.S. servicemen killed in Afghanistan receive only about a $100,000 death gratuity. What does this say about government's attitude towards our servicemen and women and veterans?
Well, in the world of defund the police, is anybody really surprised by any of this that's going on, where you lack respect for those who are in fact protecting us, and you have all this disdain for them and the people of America while reaching out? And it's really all about elections. It's all about bringing people in here, giving them money to get them to vote, so it keeps you in power for a much longer period of time. And we just can't afford to allow these people to be in power that length of time. We need to do something about it. We need to have a voice. We need to say something. We need to stand up and say, I've taken all I'm going to take, and really get involved. And don't sit back and say, well, it doesn't mean anything if I vote. It means a lot if you vote. You need to show up.
And I know you're doing a lot to help our veterans. Please tell us what you are doing to help with your Walkway to Victory program.
Actually, Walkway to Victory is a great program we started a few years ago. We started with the Reagan Legacy Foundation supplying scholarships to the men and women aboard the USS Ronald Reagan. That's where this flight jacket comes from. They made it for me. And it's been a great program ever since the early 2000s, when we christened the USS Ronald Reagan in 2001 in Norfolk. And since then, we've kind of expanded it. And you might remember my father was the first president to actually speak at Normandy on D-Day. And since then, every other president's gone to Normandy on a D-Day of their administration and, in fact, spoken. And people love him and really respect him for what he's done for the World War II vets. And remember, my dad did 300 films during that period of time, teaching kids how to use a parachute, how to swim, all these other programs that he did during the Second World War. And so I thought, what could we do to honor his memory and legacy of how well he felt about those who served, and honor those who did serve back in the Second World War? And so we created the Walkway to Victory at St. Mary Église, Normandy, France. It's an unbelievable place for the 101st and 82nd Airborne. It's their Gettysburg, if you will. And we thought about putting together a walkway where people could go online, buy a brick, and have it inlaid in the ground at St. Mary Église to remember that person who, in fact, served in the European theater during the Second World War. And we're up to now somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 bricks have been laid. People put the names of their loved one, grandparents, whatever it might be, who served. And those who don't know someone can go to ReaganLegacyFoundation.org and or send a check to us, put in the memo brick project, and we will find a World War II vet that served the European theater, put his name on it or her name on it, put it in the ground and lay it in the ground, and then send you the information so you know exactly who you sponsored for people to remember that's there at St. Mary Glee's at the Walkway to Victory, in the Walkway to Victory at the Airborne Museum.
Michael Reagan, president of the Reagan Foundation, author and syndicated columnist. Thank you, Michael, for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.